What it do, YouTube? It's Rise, and we're going to look at two mouse pads sent out by Nyfter from Germany. Shout out to Jen for recommending me to review these mouse pads. I appreciate it a lot. So we got two of them. We have the Nyfpad control. It's a cloth surface control pad. And then we got the Nyfpad Falcon, which is a glass infused pad. So we're going to look at these. We're going to tell you what I like, what I don't like, and we're going to tell you what I think can be improved. So let's dig into it. Let's rise up. Let's go for it. All right. So right now we are looking at the Nyfpad Falcon. So Nyfter is a German-based company. They have sent two pads out to review. This one is their glass infused pad, and underneath is their control pad. So if you don't know, I like speed, right? I like speed pads. I main the Vanzer Ice. I'm currently maining the Pulsar Super Glide. And I just like the freedom you get in those kind of speed pads. You don't have any tug, you don't have any drawback from pressing too hard down on the pad, and so forth. So this is another speed pad. The topping texture of it does feel a little different. It's a little more textured than the Vanzer Ice, and that alone isn't bad. Isn't bad. It's still a super good glide on most skates. So I feel like the texture on the surface of the pad does hinder some of the glide a little bit. For example, the Fanatic Bolt has two thin skates. The X2 has thicker, wider skates than the Bolt. And the X2 skates actually feel better than the Bolt. The Bolt makes this pad feel a little slow. Even though it is a speed pad, it slows the pad down a little bit just because of the texture on the top. Now, if you use the Vanzer Ice, I've used both of these mice on the ice, and they both felt really fast, really speedy, and really smooth. So I think the only drawback on this pad is the texture. It is more textured than the ice, like I said. And I think that hinders the smoothness on the glide, especially when you press down on it. When you're in tracking scenarios, I feel like it doesn't give you what you're looking for in the smoothness and the effortless glide. I feel like the texture brings it down a little bit. Now the stitching is actually really nice. There's no fraying, there's no issues with your arm getting caught on it, nothing like that. It's nice. The firmness of this pad is actually pretty firm. It's not soft by any means. And the pad alone feels like a good quality build of a pad. It's not super plush, it's not super like flimsy. It feels really well done. So they did send this out for review. Don't know how much it would be in the States if they brought this, but I mean, if you have Vanzer Ice, if you have the Wusheng X from esports, if you're looking for another speed pad, I mean, you got the Nyfpad Falcon. Now, would I use this over the other two? Probably not. That's just on me. But now we will talk about the control pad. Now, surprisingly, the control pad I like more than their glass infused pad. Why? I feel like I get a more stable glide, more consistent glide overall in one, not only flicks, but tracking scenarios. I had an easier time tracking on this than I did on their glass infused pad. Now, the reason why I say that is because the pad doesn't have a texture like the glass infused pad does. It's a pretty smooth, it's basically, it's like a standard cloth pad, but it is geared towards the more control side. Now, what I'll do is I'll compare this quickly to the Soku texture that I recently got. So the Soku is another cloth pad. It's more on the balance side. I have to get used to the balance of speed because I main the Super Glide pad. But the feel on the skin, on the skates, it's fairly similar to the Soku, the Nyfpad, but it's slower. You can definitely feel the more controlled surface on the Nyfpad control than the Soku being a little faster. Now on different skates, the thinner the skates, in my opinion, make the pad feel just a tiny bit quicker. These are the same skates, but even the Orochi, smaller skates, feel like it gives the Nyfpad control just a little bit more speed than the X2. And same thing with the Fnatic Bolt. But I did perform really well with the Nyfpad control. Tracking was easy. It took me a little time to adjust coming from glass because they're two different monsters. But if you do want I would bring the Nyfpad control over to the States because I think right now they only sell in the EU, which if you're in EU, this control pad's a really good pad for Valorant, CSGO. I mean, I even did pretty well in Apex. So, I mean, depending on your level and like how you play, you'll be perfectly fine with this pad. Over the two, I would go over the Nyfpad control, then their glass infused, the Falcon, just because I was a lot more consistent on this pad. That's pretty much it. Two solid pads. The one thing I would change about the glass infused pad would be the texture that they use for the surface. I would make it a smoother texture, such as the Vantarized to Wusheng. Make it a little smoother so it doesn't affect the consistency of the glide and how it affects the mouse gates. So there you have it. Two pads from Nyfter from Germany. So thank you for sending those out. And shout out to Jen for recommending me to review these pads. I had a good time trying them in Apex. Nice, solid, but I still probably am going to main the glass just because I'm a glass pad Andy now, you know what I mean? So yeah, love you guys. Rise up. God bless. See you for the next review.